Get ready for Real Talk with Pasha B in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Real Talk with Pasha B. And we are talking about the Black experience. We're just going to go in.
What you mean by the Black experience, Pasha?
Everything.
Black?
Black.
Okay.
Blackity black. Everything. Sheneka, introduce the people so we can go in.
Okay, so we have two special guests with us today. We're not using full government names. Michael. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael.
Good to have you. So as you know, Real Talk with Pasha B, we reach out to our listeners and we definitely want you to be a part of the Real Talk with Pasha B experience. And that's what we did. So Michael is one of our listeners. Invited him to come in. Sure, you all would definitely appreciate.
Go over to Belinda so we can get this thing going. Go! Come on, Sheneka!
We have Belinda. Belinda, welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful having you on the show. So the purpose of having these individuals, everybody has a very diverse background here at the table, even though we're all Black. So that leads into what we're going to talk about, how we can all be Black, but have completely different experiences in life. So go ahead, Patrick, because she is squirming in her chair acting a fool over here. So go ahead.
I want to talk about these Black folks who be out here. No, I'm just playing. We were talking about Hollywood and what that looks like for people who have decided to enter the entertainment industry, whether that be actor, director. We were talking about Tyler Perry and his success and things of that nature. And I wanted us to start recording so that everybody else can hear what we're talking about. Success for Black people, do you think that it's weighted the same as non-Black people, non-coloreds?
Belinda.
Non-colonizers.
Colonizers. Yeah, so because we're talking about experiences, right? So my experience, let's get into it.
Should we give some background information so people can understand the dynamic?
Sure, because I'm Black. Belinda?
I'm Black. And Haitian.
Can you delve a little deeper? Okay.
Well, my family is Haitian. I was born and raised here in Atlanta, but I really feel like I grew up having like two different cultures because inside my house it was just all Haiti. I didn't know anything about outside, and when I went to school, I had the American culture. So I really feel like I'm coming from two different sides: the immigrant experience as well as the American experience.
Michael?
We're going around the table.
Oh. Well, I'm from New York, born and raised. Southside Queens.
Oh,
Just so we know.
shout out. And he rolling his eyes like, we got you, boo.
Yeah, and I am Black,
Black man.
Black.
male,
Yeah.
and I'm gay.
Real.
And I'm out. All the way out.
Oh,
this is not
ALL.
what they call it when you swipe left, swipe right. This is not Tinder.
Sheneka?
I'm Black, regular old Black.
Where you from, though?
I'm from Miami. Born and raised in Miami. My parents born and raised in South Georgia. So I guess I come from a southern background with a little bit of urban, just a little bit of urban.
A little Black.
Shout out Opalaka. Miami Gardens in the house. Yes.
Okay, so my parents are Jamaican. Born in Miami, grew up in Connecticut for 16 years. So I think I have like a little bit of a melting pot where I have a South experience and a Northern experience. I have the Caribbean experience and the American experience. And I'm Black.
Yes, you are. With the Fenty on.
My Fenty is popping today. But Childish Gambino, right? So, and we took we purposely and not purposely took a little bit of time to do this podcast after the This Is America video came out, because Pasha B and Sheneka and Ordinary People Media, what we don't like to do is jump on hype things, right? Because we want to have real conversation about things. Right. So the This Is America video brought up Black issues, and I'm going to say it's based upon your interpretation, but a lot of our interpretations are the same. So it's a video where it's talking about Black issues, social issues, injustices, things of that nature, brought up by Childish Gambino. A little bit of background about Childish Gambino, and I'm not going to say I know a lot about him, but I do know back in the day, he was like a little nerdy dude, whatever, but he's creative, right? So he raps under the name of Childish Gambino. He's been in movies. He is going to be
TV, right?
He's on TV with Atlanta, the series Atlanta. He's in the Star Wars movie, things of that nature. So now he got a little buzz about him, right? So he does this controversial video, and then he gets criticized for potentially not being Black enough because of who he is and who he decided to date and things of that nature. So his Black experience for some is not Black enough. And I want to know how you guys feel about that.
So I don't think everybody knows, because I think you kind of glossed over as far as who he's dating. So shortly after the video came out,
he dating a white woman.
It also came out that he's dating a white woman. And that's when his Blackness.
I think his Blackness has always been criticized. But I think because of this video, and it was a socially conscious video about Black issues, he then did receive the criticism because he's dating a white woman, right? And this is a story that is not new, because we talked about Sidney Poitier and James Earl Jones, and there's a slew of Black people who have been down for the cause and who has decided to date or marry outside of their race. And they kind of get the cross-eyed or behind that. And is that an issue? Can you be Black and date outside your race and still be for the cause?
Yeah, I think I have a problem with the phrase Black enough, because who determines that? There's no definition for how to be Black. We all have a different experience, just like we said, going around the table. We all have a different experience, and we all have a different frame of reference. I do applaud him for bringing issues to the forefront where other people who might be considered Black enough are not doing the same thing. I do have a problem when Black men might say, I just refuse to date a Black woman because whatever, because of the stereotypes. Now, that's where issues come in for me. I say, love who you love, where you can get love, great. But don't exclude your own because of stereotype or experiences you've had in the past.
Michael, do you have an opinion about that?
Well, on the surface, I struggle. I struggle with it. And I struggle with it.
Tell us. Lay on the couch,
and a part of the struggle is to, one, how we show up. And when I say how we show up, in the sense of, well, you didn't like him because he wasn't whatever enough. He wasn't Black enough. He wasn't a thug. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Whatever the stereotype of the moment is, well, he ain't gonna sit there by himself.
But who didn't like him?
Whoever, his experience, because it's his experience. So he went and found somebody that liked him, that appreciated who he is, how he is in the world, and yeah. So I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of it or an advocate of it, I'm not gonna get in his way. But I get it.
And
I get it.
And I feel the same way about it, as far as on the surface. So when we initially had this conversation, Passion and I tried to be as objective as possible. And during that process, if I am honest with myself, I agree with you. As far as, I don't want to say Black women, but there are a segment of women who have an idea of how a man should be. And typically that's not what you refer to as the nerdy type or the little people with, I don't want to offend anybody and say, the Comic-Con and, the video game type guys or what have you. But typically, especially when you're younger, you're not checking for that type of dude. And also, I also think with that, we don't know the relationship he had with this woman. This could be someone he grew up with. This could be, it could be his best friend. We don't know. So to look at it on the surface and say, oh, he's not black enough because he made the decision to date somebody outside his race, I don't think that's fair. There was something I was going to say. I forgot. Additionally, also what I was going to say is, throughout our struggle, we've always had people who were non-black to support us in our causes. Right. So just because that person is not black doesn't mean that they don't support the cause as well. Right. So looking at the civil rights movement, totally. Yeah, looking at the civil rights movement, abolition of slavery, all of that, we've always had people on the other side that support us. Right. So given that, if I want to be totally objective and honest, you can be for your people. You can be quote unquote woke and date outside your race.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Pasha, I don't. You date who you love. Bottom line. I don't think that can be put into a box based upon color, whether it be based upon gender. You love who you love, and I don't think anybody should have anything to say about who you love, especially when it doesn't affect them. I will piggyback off what Belinda said in regards to not dating a certain type of person purposely for the wrong reasons. But again, your experience is your experience. I want to say something. Not gonna do it. I'll say this. I love my chocolate men.
As do I.
And we got some.
Love my chocolate men. But yeah, like you said, we don't know really what his background was, what his experience with this relationship is about. I think the world is so intrusive that everybody feels as though they have a say in what's going on in somebody's life. No, who he loves is who he loves. It's a white woman. That's who he loves. That's who you want to be with, a white woman. And I do believe that you can be black and date outside your race and still be for the cause. I think you just need to be intentional about what you're doing. That's all. Because everybody's not for the betterment of you or for your people. So you may think that you can be black and date outside your race and it be all good. But, just make sure that person that you're with is equally aligned and yoked with that belief. Because if something does happen to pop off, okay,
pick a side. Yeah. When the revolution go down, pick a side.
That's a sticky situation, especially because race is such a hot topic at this time. Somebody have to pick a side.
Why they gotta pick a side?
And at least a marker or an indicator for me, if I'm sitting on the outside looking in, judging harshly, is if there's an interracial couple and all of the friends are not black, like your whole circle is not black, well then, to me, on the outside looking in,
something right.
There's a thing.
Right.
There's a thing, and then that's when, at least for me, I'm like, well, okay.
What's really going on?
I'm not sure. Like, what's really going on? Like
alienated him.
Right, like you struggle with people that look like you,
right?
And for me, that's a little problematic.
Okay.
So talking about race and dating outside of your race, it seems like black men kind of get a pass to do so more than black women. My opinion. But that's what I see. Belinda, come on, give me something, sister.
Yeah, I don't see it as black men getting a pass. I think they're actually criticized more by black women for dating people of other ethnicities.
So in general terms, I think you see more, and this is my perspective, you see more black men dating outside of their race because women are, and the women doing the criticizing, of course, you can't criticize someone for doing something that you're telling them not to do. So I don't see that many Black women dating outside of their race for the fact of, I don't know what the reason is, but I know you can't be telling someone not to do something and you're doing it most of the time.
Yeah, I think just traditionally Black women have just been so, air quotes, loyal to Black men. Right. And I'll say,
Sheneka.
To a fault, yeah.
Sheneka.
Yup. to a fault. And that limits their options. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the men, they've been doing this. As far as the reasons why, I think there are many variables that contributes to why.
Plethora.
Yeah. And I think some of it even goes back to stereotypes. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody want a Black man. Everybody want a Black man. Yeah. You know, whereas
it's a fetish for some.
For some. Right. And I think that may play into the numbers. And then when you look at the stereotypes on the flip side for other groups, it may not. I wish we had a video. But the stereotypes may not be as positive.
For the Black woman?
Or
the white man?
For other for non-Black men.
I don't understand anything you just said. Say it all.
Okay, so see, Belinda understands. I'm sorry, Belinda understands what I'm saying. So everybody wants a Black man because y'all, physically speaking, I mean, Michael, you're not. Show me some guns. Show them guns, boy. Look at and when you want to speak to stereotypes, it's the Black man. He has more sexual prowess. He's more endowed. Okay. You know, he's more masculine, if you will. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you look at other groups of people aren't saying that about white men being endowed. People not saying that about Asian men. Like, people not saying that. So I think embedded in some of our ideologies and thought processes, those stereotypes play out. And I'm not going to say anymore because I think some of them are, you know, kind of, it's just bad as far as even being welcome. I'll just say that. Let me go in that direction. Being welcomed by family members. So Black people, we tend to welcome everybody to the cookout. Right. You can bring everybody to the cookout. Whereas on the flip side, Pasha said, no, we can't.
You can't.
Ma'am,
Really?
ma'am, I do believe if you compare the two groups or groups outside of Black America, I think Black people
I ain't never invite a white person to my cookout ever in life.
But have you been to a cookout where a white person was invited and they felt like they weren't welcome? Black people make people feel welcome.
Shit, you know how Caribbean people are? You asking me to stretch.
How are Caribbean people, ma'am?
They kind of stick to what they know. Like, if Caribbean people were doing a cookout, 9 times out of 10, if you're probably not dating somebody in the family, and that's a stretch as well, ain't no white people at the cookout.
So let me ask you this: is because one of the things I noticed, especially with Jamaicans, that I don't do it about Jamaicans is just like any group of Black people, you all coming up in a wide range of colors. So coming from Miami, I met Chinese Jamaicans, Latin Jamaicans. Like, so is it a Caribbean thing or is it a white thing? Because you can definitely have a white Jamaican come.
I'm going to tell you, even if you are a Chinese Jamaican.
Is that what it's called? Chinese?
You not considered Chinese. You consider Black. You Jamaican.
That is true.
You're Black.
So that's what I'm asking. Does that influence what you're saying? I'm talking about white, American white.
Any toots of Black is Black.
What the word you said?
Toots.
What the? I'm Black. I'm not Jamaican.
No, what I'm saying is, like, so if someone's mixed, that's Black. So
gotcha.
We're talking about John in the khakis and the button-up blue shirt?
Tiki Torch, yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying that I haven't in newer or more recent barbecues. Of course, I can possibly say that Black people will invite everybody. It depends on who's hosting the cookout, though.
I think that we make them feel welcome. We might talk about them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
At least,
Definitely.
On the surface.
Yeah.
On the
Right.
surface.
And they can't bring the potato salad.
Oh, stop. Karen can't bring the potato salad?
No.
With the raisins?
No.
Oh, y'all so messy. Y'all so messy.
Mm-mm.
I want to kind of get back to when you were talking about, and I'm not sure we had this conversation on or off air, so just roll with me. As far as when, for those of us who may come from more urban areas, once we decide to move away, as far as do we have an obligation to give back to those areas we come from? So I think off air we were talking about how a lot of entertainers, whether it's actors, musicians, rappers, what have you, may have got their may have grown up in the hood, and once they make their money, everybody moves out of the hood, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that perceived, one, by people who are still there? And do we have an obligation to the culture to come back to the hood to help those other people? So, one, do you feel like you have an obligation to go back? For those, I'm making an assumption and assuming that we all at this table come from a certain socioeconomic class. So,
I'm Black. I think we do have an obligation. I mean, who's going to do it if we don't do it? Like, the world is an ever revolving cycle of, I believe what you deposit is what you take, you need to deposit. You have to. So you just can't keep taking from a resource and not putting back in, especially if you grew up in with a certain type of lifestyle or a certain area. It's your obligation to give back.
So why do we leave the hood in the first place?
Because we don't want to live there anymore.
Instead of building up the hood, why do we leave?
I'm just going to say I believe the hood is systemic.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Explain that a little more.
You have to have poor people. You have to have rich people in the United States. I think the hood is there for the class of people to happen, right? And I think it would take almost an effort from Jesus himself to ultimately just remove underprivileged areas, because you have to have them. You have to have them in order for rich people to stay rich.
Well, I'm talking, and I'm speaking to myself as well. So when I left Miami and moved to Atlanta, one, it was better opportunity, I feel, as far as cost of living. It's much cheaper here than it is in Miami. So if I wanted to be honest with myself, instead of moving away, and I know many people who did, for us to kind of stay where we are and build up our community as opposed to moving away.
I don't think we have... I'm going to let y'all respond to that.
Yeah, I struggle with the obligation part of it, because I don't have to per se go back in a physical way, but I can still mentor, coach, provide whatever it is for somebody that's 10 years younger than me. Like, well, this is what I did to get to this point. I'm only going to tell you what I know to be true. I ain't going to tell you the shit that I thought I heard. Some shit I saw on the Island Van Zandt that I don't know to be true. I'm going to just tell you, this is what I did to get to this point. And I think that that's a part of giving back or going back. As far as, like, in a physical sense, I'm from South Jamaica, Queens, so no, I'm not going back. And there's nothing, like, I've already spent my time there. And I appreciate it, and it helped me grow into the man that I am now. But as far as moving back, no, I'm not doing that.
The end.
But thanks for coming out.
No, I think I also struggle with the word obligation. I think we have a responsibility, just if we have come up and just like they say, to whom much is given, much is required. I think we have a responsibility, but who's going to make us do it? I think it's based on our own conscience as to whether we actually give back or not. As far as moving out, yeah, I agree. I mean, if I grew up in a hood, and like where I live now, I still consider the hood, but if I grew up like where I'm having to dodge bullets and things like that, no, I'm not moving back once I get out. I'm not gonna put my life in danger.
No, that's absurd.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but if I am able to do, just like you said, go back and mentor, help somehow, then hopefully we all feel that we have a responsibility to do that.
Pasha. So I'm taking the lead on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me get my notes.
You should have already had them out.
No, you should have already had them out.
Mine are
Put
right
me in a goddamn
here.
situation.
Mine are right here.
Hold on, let me.
So I want to go back to.
Yeah, we can curse.
What?
Okay.
This potty mouth right here. A couple years ago, Cat Williams did a stand up, and he was talking about President Obama and going back to the whole what we specifically Black people, how we categorize Blackness. And he was talking about President Obama, and he was like, this man don't have no baby mamas, he don't have no tattoos, he don't owe anybody. And I get it from the comedic standpoint, it was funny. He was like, this is a super Negro, where we find this Negro from? You know, and I think, and I'm use that, and I'm also reference to go back a little further, like the Cosby Show. When that came out, it was like, well, this isn't real. This isn't a Black experience. And they got a lot of flack for that because people thought that wasn't an adequate, an accurate reflection of the Black experience. So, and I think I shared with you, Belinda, it wasn't until I went away to college that I actually experienced or came in contact with these different groups of Black people, and it became real. Like, wow, the Cosby Show is real. There are people who are doctors and lawyers, and they're in upper middle class to, well-to-do families. And I think a lot of people really don't have that type of experience where they come in contact with people from a certain class. So that kind of feeds into the stereotype of what is considered Black. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think, so I was born and raised in Atlanta, and so I saw that all my life. Black people who were doing really well, dentists, doctors, lawyers, and all of that. So it's never been a surprise to me to see Black people doing well. And that is, so it's just a different frame of reference. So I don't expect that every Black person has the same experience. That's just the stereotype that people perpetuate, thinking that all Black people come from the hood and all Black people have the same experience and like lower income, lower quality schools and all that. It's just, we're very diverse. And it's, I think it's racist for anyone to say that all Black people are the same and to think that one Black person can represent the whole ethnic background of Black people.
Absolutely. Let's switch gears to Michael. Michael, at the beginning of the show, you made a point to say that you are a gay Black man and you out of the closet. You all the way out of the closet. You sit up here soliciting and everything. So I will ask the question, do you feel as though your Black card has ever been in question, being out of the closet, as not being, because typically when we think of Black men, we want to say, there's a certain level of what we consider masculine. Now, you're very masculine, like very masculine. You did. But have you ever had your Black card in question because you were out of the closet?
All the time.
And how does that look?
Well, what it looks like is, like, and I had a conversation with with a police officer, and we were talking about our Black experiences and this kind of a thing. And he tried to assert that because I'm gay, I have these kind of rights and I don't have this kind of an experience. And I had to tell him, like, well, sir, the reason that there's a Black gay pride is because none of the white people wanted us there. So we had to make our own. The reason that people fought so hard for gay marriage, it wasn't because they wanted Black people to get married. They wanted to live in their privilege as white people.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the fight. That was the engine that drove the train down the track was, I am white and I'm going to have my privileges as a white person.
So
now, we was along for the ride. And I appreciate it, so thank you. But yeah, but like, so yeah,
I never
it
thought
happens
about it from that perspective.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it happens all the time. So it is, although I live it, Black gay men that are quote unquote woke struggle with me being quote unquote woke and my experiences as a Black man. Because again, you ain't gonna know that I'm gay until if I had a boyfriend, you would see me with them like, oh, they're gay. But just walking down the street or listening to a conversation, especially if I'm talking about sports, then you're not gonna know.
we gonna know you from New York, though.
So, and I understand that there's a I can pass because.
So you know that? Do you ever?
I have a privilege. I understand that I have a privilege that femme guys don't have.
Do you use it?
I use it to influence. Like I'm having this conversation now. So yeah, so I'll tell you that I'm gay and represent that and understand and acknowledge my privileges that I have and still be able to speak to the topic because again, I'm Black and I'm male and I'm gay.
Gotcha.
Do you feel like your Black gay card or Black card is in question from other Black people?
All the time. All the time. Except in this in this room. So
it's coming from like Black men.
It comes from straight Black men. It comes from straight Black men.
They think they can try you.
Who think that all gay men want them.
Oh.
Well, sir.
Oh, gosh.
Sir. Sir.
And do you get it as far as questioning your, I'll say, toughness?
Not per se me. But yes, overall, because even though they may be individually having a conversation with me, I'm carrying the whole
gay community. Black,
you represent everybody,
whether I want to or not, whether it's my lane or not. I'm carrying it all with me.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll speak right past me, and when I say speak past me, meaning they see a Black man in front of them, but they want to speak to the guy that's really, really, really
not
feminine.
you,
not you, the femme guy. Those are the ones that I hate. Really. Well, he didn't do shit to you.
Gotcha.
So again, but I'm still going to be offended by that, and I have to check him on. I'm like, well, sir, that's not good enough. That's like the white person coming up to you, say, like, no, not you, the other Black,
the other darky in the back.
Right, the jigaboo over here. That's the one I don't like. That's not good enough. So I have to acknowledge, like I said, my privilege, and I'm able to pass. And so now, at least for me, I have a little added responsibility in the sense of acknowledging it and making sure that I check people when they talk about femme guys or transgendered or anything like that. So,
That's one thing I've never have understood why people are so bothered if it's somebody else's life and somebody else's lifestyle that has no effect on you. I just have never understood that. When
the marriage equality was starting and that debate was raging, people were talking about, and you're going to defy or somehow tarnish the institution of marriage. I'm like, really? So y'all
it been tarnished.
It been
tarnished. Been polished. Y'all had kept the silver polish all these years. I can't tell.
Not at all.
Because Daddy
Not
got
at
the
all.
family down the street with Miss
Exactly.
Barbara.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Caribbean families, they got one in Haiti, one in New York, one
Yeah.
you know. So
Like,
no.
come on, like, really, you can't tell me that story. You can't tell me that story. Please don't do that. Please don't. Please don't do that.
Agreed.
So, Michael, I'm going to ask you to just elaborate a little bit on what your Black experience has been moving from New York to Atlanta, not only being a Black male, but a Black gay male. What's been your experience?
It is so different in the South. My goodness.
Is that good or bad?
That's not. It's not. It's just not. Because being from New York, we're pretty direct and to the point, and we say what we mean, and we mean what we say. And so, stereotypically, not to own how I stereotype, is the Black people that are here struggle with being honest. And so you can say, I'm down for the cause until the rubber hit the road and shit at the fan, and then I don't see you anymore. But you down, you say what you mean what you say. Like, no. So I struggle with that. Especially when I first got here, it seemed like what we used to call it the Black something Mecca,
Black
something. Until you get here, then none of the Black people want to work with you. Unless you are a name person already. Unless you're already known. And I'm like, yeah, I'll work with you. Yeah. But you're lying.
It definitely is a lot more about image now.
It's absolutely about image. It's just what it looks like matters, and what it is doesn't matter so much.
Right.
I call one of my experiences in Atlanta, or my experience, I moved to Atlanta in 2006, and I call it like the have or the have-nots. So there are people in Atlanta who's trying to make it to the have sides, and if you don't, you're a have-not. But that line there isn't that much of a gap of separation there, but it's all about perception. It's all about being somebody. And if you're not that somebody, then you're nobody. You're a have not. It's funny to me coming from Miami because the haves have it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Miami money is different than this fake ass Atlanta money. Like you can't be
fake is for real. Yeah.
You can't be trying to say that you all of this and then the haps, and we live in the same subdivision because I got littles money. You know what I'm saying? You got littles money. We can't live in the same neighborhood, and you out here trying to
driving a luxury car because you want to put up this
persona.
Right.
You living with five other people in the
Exactly.
You got your hat, you got your rent.
But it's a luxury apartment.
I struggle, and I still continue to struggle with that part of Atlanta. I mean, it's a nice city. But I struggle with how it moves overall in the world, especially being Black, because they say these things, they talk a good game, but then I struggle with it.
And I think with it being in the South as well, I think South meaning what is that Bible Belt, because Atlanta South is different. Well, Georgia South is different from like Florida South.
Right.
The undertone, we still have the whole residue of slavery and this subservient type mentality. So when you say people don't show up, or they say they're about the cause until it's time to do something, they kind of fall back. I think that's a part of that whole residual effect that we have with the civil rights movement and everything, because a lot of our parents were alive during that time, and they've influenced us in how they raised us. So you still, and I've seen this, just traveling around, where you still have people in South Carolina, North Carolina, South, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, they still, with this whole, I don't know, yes ma'am, yes sir, they won't look them directly in the, non-Blacks directly in the eyes. There still is this subservient type attitude going on.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
When they want to talk about a black person, but they rub the back of their hand, and when they're talking about a white person, they rub the palm. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Guilty, you know what it means.
I'm like, again, like, so when I'm like, what the fuck is this?
So that's a South thing?
They don't do
That's
this.
I don't know.
They don't do that in New York.
Y'all just call them out. That white person.
The white guy over there.
Yeah, you're right.
So again, so that's the show. I'm like, man, you can't even say black?
No, you can't. You gotta be like, like you Beyonce.
So
you're right.
I never thought about that, but that is true. Yeah.
But I will say that is a northern type of attitude in which, if there was any type of racial issue, we faced it head on. And and I will say this: I never identified having a racial situation happen to me or being treated a certain kind of way until I got to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I had my experience. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, did this shit just happen to me? Mm-hmm. When I moved to Atlanta, I had to become kind of okay with certain norms, such as Publix, right? There's Publix in Miami. Don't get me wrong, in Florida. So I bought my dinner and you bagging my shit up and you want to have a long, drawn out fucking conversation with me.
That's Southern hospitality.
Yes.
Oh, you sure is cooking good tonight, nigga. No. Bag my shit. So I can be gone. And I don't have a problem with saying, hey, how you doing? In light talk. But you tried to have a full conversation with me. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? Bag my shit so I can go. I had to get used to that in Georgia. I had to get used to people wanting to have the conversations with you, whether they be real conversations or not. I had to get used to the slower paced environment because when I moved here, I'm like, y'all just act like slavery just ended about 25 motherfucking years ago. Okay? Slavery, I know it ain't been that long, but y'all are acting from the residual of all of this that y'all can't have your head up. You can't talk to people directly. I talk to people in their face all the fucking time. Don't know how they receive it. I get some negative comments about that.
You,
most
Pasha,
of the motherfucking time. I call shit like I see it. Shit is shit. It's shit. I don't know how to be like, well, bless their heart. Fuck out of here.
But I'm the same way, and I was born and raised here, so I think it's
that's
more
that Caribbean though.
That might be.
That's that Caribbean.
It's more a personality
because civil rights. I can't tell you how that played in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like my family came from Jamaica to Miami, moved up north for a little while, came back to Miami. And I don't even know if they talked about how the civil rights movement or that time period affected them. I don't know. It's kind of I won't say it has not been impactful, but I don't know how much it impacted my family. So the whole culture shock coming here and people acting like somebody's skin, even though I understand the history and the repercussions and all of that stuff, that's real. But from my standpoint, Caribbean people say what the fuck they want to say, regardless. And they have biases within the community. So I can say this. I don't know. I can say that I don't have any family, just thinking off the top of my head, that's gay or that's dated outside their race. Married. Let me say married outside their race.
Because they'll hit.
That's just me.
I have both. I have both in my family. And I think I have 2 gay cousins. And
they're younger.
In my age group. Yeah. And so I had, and so I had one aunt that actually said, he's not welcome in my house. One of them, his sister, it's been maybe a couple of years since he actually came out. Like, we knew before, but since he actually came out, to everyone, his sister hasn't spoken to him since. And it's just ridiculous to me. And these are the ones who are Christian, and so, I have seen that dynamic play out in my family, which, when I was younger and I would ask my mother, like, what would you do if one of your children was gay? And she said, no, that wouldn't happen.
It's not an option.
I was like, what if it happened? No, that wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But like, she surprised me, and she was one of the most welcoming to my cousin, who actually came out and was like, he's still my nephew, and I still love him.
Do you think she's evolved, or do you think it just wasn't her kid? So she's like,
"Woo, I can do what I want."
Dodge the bullet.
It might be a little of both.
So I have a question as far as the Caribbean experience.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in Miami, and I think we're all, I would say 30 plus, and just keep it there. Yeah, let's just say 30 plus. Growing up there definitely was a distinction between Black,
yes,
Haitian, Jamaican, Dominican, Trinidadian, and there was conflict, button of the heads and you not Black or what have you.
Yeah.
I think
the Jamaicans and the Haitians just stopped beefing last year.
Really?
So when we talk about being Black, what is being Black? Even within ourselves, we have that whole dynamic of you're not Black, you're Haitian. You're not Black, you're Jamaican. So what are some of the things that we can do? And I was going to ask, is this still a thing? But Pasha just answered the question. Apparently it is still a thing. And I'll even go as far as to say even Africans. I think Black Americans kind of separate ourselves, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because we want to consider ourselves African American, or we want to consider ourselves woke.
I don't use that term.
Yeah.
Because a white guy in South Africa is African American. If he moves over here, becomes a citizen. But he ain't Black.
Exactly. You're right.
Black.
That's how they say it in South Africa.
He's not one of the Blacks.
So since this is a thing, I don't know. Like, how can we combat that within our own community? Other than, I guess, getting to know, like,
right. I think that's the only thing, because there is so much.
We'll eat your food all day long, right?
Yeah, I'll eat everybody's food. I mean, except for raisin potato salad.
Except for Karen's potato salad, raggedy ass potato salad, non-seasoned ass potato salad.
It's a pound of mayonnaise in it.
And I know one thing with you, Belinda, you have had the opportunity to travel the world. Yeah. So you've been to Africa, you've been to South America, you've been to Haiti, you've been to all of these countries where people of color are.
Right.
Is this a dynamic that you've seen in other countries as well, or does it seem to be a American thing?
No, I've definitely seen the dynamic in other cultures. It might manifest differently, like like in South America and different countries, you might have, of course, we come in all different shades and ranges, and people have no problem with saying, like, hola negra, and just like, if that were here,
that means, hey, blackie.
Exactly. And it would be a problem, but it's not perceived as.
Did she just call me a nigga?
And I had to play with it at first until I learned that it doesn't come with the same connection as it does in America. Because I was like, wait, why are you calling me negra?
Got the hair rolling, catching flies.
But Black people do it, themselves, and people who might be perceived as white or whatever, but the distinctions are just not the same there as it is here. And so, but of course there is colorism, everywhere I've been. And so you look at a place like Brazil that has just this, probably the largest population of Black African descendants. And there is colorism throughout, people, like darker people are ostracized. There was a time I was in Peru, and a guy who said he was an economics professor I was in a conversation with him, and he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "The States." And he was like, "Oh, but they don't have your race there." I was like,
what? Did he just call me a nigga?
So, fortunately, I was in the frame of mind that, okay,
Good.
this is a teachable moment.
Good.
And not a beatable moment. Because, if I had been here, I might have reacted differently. But I did explain to him that there is a large population. And then he said, "Oh, well, you almost have your own zone." And I said, "No, it doesn't work that way."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, your own zone is in your own area.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I did find, like, in Peru, in certain places, I never saw another person who looked like me. And people would outright stare at me, like, and, mouth open. And I just started, like, putting on my biggest smile and saying, "Hola."
You hit her with that Spanish.
Yeah.
She trilingual, y'all. She trilingual. Like, I know what you're saying. You better watch what you say.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, they would be shocked to see me. And I had to stop taking it personally because they were just ignorant. And they just had no idea and had never seen someone up close who looked like me.
Wow.
And, so, yeah, I think there's colorism everywhere. And like you had asked earlier about the differences. I say all the time, the only difference is a boat ride and a boat style. We all don't recognize that. We don't all understand that is the only difference. But other than that, we're all the same.
Where your people got let off at.
Exactly. But some of us, like in Dominican Republic and Haiti, is such a different culture, and it's the same island. It's the same island, but Haitians are proud of the African roots. Dominicans can be darker than me and say they're not black, and of course that's a generalization. I know that it's not all Dominicans, but and there are a lot of Haitians who are feel like the lighter the better and all of that. So there's a difference, but just overall in the attitudes that I've seen come out of both places, there's a huge difference.
So, you were going to say?
I was in, when I was in the Army, I was in Germany. So we went to...
I hear they like y'all up there.
Yes. But, that's not my lane. So.
Gotcha. Gotcha, Bo.
That's not my lane.
That's those stereotypes.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. So we were at prayer. This is when I was a Muslim. So we were...
You just dropped something new on me.
Yeah. So we were at prayer, and there were all kind of Africans from every part of Africa that you could imagine, including Egypt. So it's time to pray. So you're supposed to be foot to foot and shoulder to shoulder. The Egyptians, they always move their foot.
Trying to find their foot?
Yeah, like, man, what you doing? They're like, so when the prayer is over with, we're talking to, I forgot what Hassan was from. I want to say Ghana. I'm going to say Ghana for the sake of the conversation. So he's from Ghana. And so we're talking to him like, yeah, well, that's kind of how they are. They think that they're better than us.
From the motherland.
Yeah. But you get the other ones from like Ghana and Nigeria and the rest of them, like they're all over you. Like, hey, how did you do that?
Oh, yeah. So the East Coast versus West Coast.
But when I they would be in your physical body space.
Yeah, personal space. Personal
no, this is our space, not your space. This is our like,
no boundaries.
So it was something. It took some getting used to because I'm from New York. I'm in my teens. Yeah. So I'm like, what is he? Okay, like, is he trying to come on? Like, you're a nice person.
I don't like you like that.
So it really took some getting used to, like how those Egyptians, they didn't want to touch. The prayer was over. Thanks for coming out. And everybody else, the darker skinned Africans, you would clearly feel the camaraderie, and they would be so glad and happy to see us, the Black Americans. So it's something.
And again, that's in a religious setting.
In a religious setting.
Right. And so like how I was saying earlier, it's the supposed Christians who are more like alienated and more like non-Christian and you're in a mosque and people are still like not looking at you as brother. It's ridiculous.
That's me.
Damn sinners.
Right.
So, Sheneka, what's been your experience? Just overall. So Sheneka also has a... No. See, Pash was going to make an assumption. Go ahead.
What was your assumption? It may be true.
Belinda, do you have kids?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that is... I think that's an assumption that people make about one another. But what was your question? Go ahead.
So what's your experience been like as a Black woman, over 30, no children, in Atlanta?
We're unicorns.
No, y'all ain't called unicorns.
What we call
No. Not trying to hate.
Okay.
But based upon what the people them had said,
Okay.
y'all ain't the unicorns. Who the unicorns is the Black male 30 with no
okay.
kids. Them the unicorns. Y'all just the women who ain't got no kids. Y'all got issues. Exactly.
We're Northerners.
So what's been your experience?
Overall, I think the vast majority of my experiences with I say issues with race took place in my adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily recall. I recall one time being called out of my name, and it was indirectly. We were walking across a mall parking lot, and the car drove.
Atlanta or
This is back home in Miami.
Okay.
And the car drove by, and they yelled out "nigga" or whatever. That was my only experience, and I think I was in high school when that happened. Oh, you know what? Let me go back. I'm lying because this coming. The memory's coming back. I must have.
she been called nigga a whole bunch.
So I will say this. I experienced, elementary and middle school, I went to a predominantly Black school. Mm-hmm. When in high school, it wasn't overt though. So I went to a predominantly Hispanic high school. However, I hate to dice people up, but it was mostly Cuban. And they tend to be a fairer skin. Mm-hmm. And I will say...
tend to associate with the Caucasians.
So I will say this. It's easier for them to assimilate with Caucasians.
Pass.
Yeah, it's easier for them to pass. And I did notice, and again, it wasn't overt, but you feel that... almost tension. You feel the looking down upon. Mm-hmm. You get that feeling when you're surrounded. So I felt that in high school, coming from a Black neighborhood, going to Black elementary and middle school. When I got to high school, it was like, whoa, culture shock. Mm-hmm. What is this? So not only are you dealing with a different color, like skin color per se, but you're dealing with a different culture overall. Mm-hmm. So, I'll say high school is where I started to recognize. Then I went to a HBCU, so then it was all good again. That's good. Yeah. But even within the HBCU, I'll say, and like I said, I had the conversation with Belinda, I noticed we were different. So coming from Miami, and I don't even want to, I'm going to say it, and I know it's a stereotype. You can recognize the people on campus, like the Miami group over here, the DMV group over here, the Chicago group over here. We were cliquish. And there were some things I noticed that I thought was different. And I'm thinking about it. Is it a Black thing? Is it a socioeconomic thing? I remember going to Philadelphia with one of my friends and feeling some kind of way because everyone spoke very proper and, and I don't talk like that, right? So I'm speaking a certain way and feeling like, okay, maybe I need to, do better with how I'm pronouncing my words and enunciating. But I felt that difference as far as a North and South thing. And I think we talked about this before on another podcast, as far as the education system and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think people I've come in contact with from the North, I think
we all that.
No. I think.
Oh yeah.
No.
Michael, I tell her.
No. Let me just say. I think more is invested. More is invested in the educational system. I think more is invested in, and I don't want to say putting on airs, but just carrying yourself a certain way. Whereas in the South, I think we're just more laid back. We're okay with being laid back. We're not as...
We was free before y'all.
None of y'all were free before me.
Touche.
Exactly. Toussaint.
Exactly.
Was cutting off heads. They were like, hell nah.
Yep.
Gotcha. But yeah, I just felt a difference. Here in Atlanta, I really don't. I see the difference in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's primarily the only place I've experienced a difference in how people interact with one another.
Okay.
You know, I was not bused. I went to junior high school in an all-white area, Italian. So it was known that you better have your black ass on that last school bus going back to where we lived, or you could be in some serious trouble. And they let us know every day. The buses would be lined up, and they'd be across the street at the. It's so stereotypical. At the pizzeria, looking at us. And Halloween, we never went to school on Halloween because it was always a bad day. They threw eggs, they threw bricks, they threw whatever they can get their hands on.
And this is in the North, right?
Yeah,
Pasha?
this is in the North.
Pasha?
I mean, no, we cut up. This is in the 80s, though.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
Oh, it was. This is all with Yusuf Hawkins. This is all in that era. So
they won't try that shit today.
So it was really, really, really tense, and it was clear you better have black ass on that motherfucking bus, as it would be something. It'd be a bad day for you, and they didn't care. These are grown men,
and we're talking about children.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the 7th and 8th grade.
Wow.
And when I got here, and this is a funny story. So I'm going to the Bank of America. No, it wasn't that. It was called Bank of the South.
Damn, even worse.
So I walk up to the ATM, and a white guy's there. He said, "Well, where's your card?" I said, "None of your damn business." And he said, "Well, you need to have a car." I said, "Sir, mind your business." And so he said, so he walks away. He comes back with a gun. It tells me to get the fuck out of here. So I got the fuck out of here.
End of story. Exactly. The end.
Oh,
Welcome to the South.
So, and I was only here, I was here less than a year.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, wow, this look like some shit. He arrived stagecoach. It was crazy.
Was it Metro Atlanta?
It was right off of South Cobb Drive in Marietta.
Still KKK area.
So I went back. I called the police. The police come out. He was like, "Oh no, some white people are like that. They have blackophobia." You have what?
Was it a white officer?
Yeah. I'm like, this shit.
I mean,
is
did
crazy.
that guy work for was he a security guard?
No, he was just a customer. It was a Sunday afternoon.
Oh my God.
On the Lord's Day.
On the Lord's Day.
On the Lord's Day. Damn. So again, I said, okay. I said, this is how we ride here.
Yeah.
The police officers tell some shit called blackophobia.
No,
what the fuck kind of shit is that?
No.
That shit is absurd. But
that is absurd.
And we haven't even delved into how those stereotypes play out in other races. How we're perceived by other races. So they look at us in a monolith as far as education, as far as children. Of course, black woman.
She has at least 4.
How many baby daddies do you? How many baby fathers do you have? You know, so we're getting it from outside the group and within the group. So what are we gonna? Well, how do we get beyond that? And I'll say within our group, because not necessarily matter outside the group, but we need to start inside. How do we start changing the narrative within Black America? And should I say Black America?
Blacks.
Just people of color.
Black race.
I just think we just have to be intentional. It sounds very cliche, but we just have to be intentional. So when we have the unconscious bias that comes up, because you've already played the scenario or you've talk about it within your groups. You know what I'm saying? Things that you know kind of aren't right, but when those unconscious biases come up, work through them. Don't stop when it starts to feel uncomfortable. Work through them and acknowledge your unconscious bias as well. There are a lot of things that we think about white people. A lot.
A whole bunch.
Some of them are true. Some of them are not true, right? So we stereotype a whole group of people behind certain things. So we also stereotype Haitians and Jamaicans and gay men and single women and all of that stuff. So we just have to be intentional and know that if it's a bias, it's a bias, and work through it.
Right. I think, so one example of things we have addressed are things like women having to have straight hair. So in the past, 20 years or so, it's people have shine a spotlight on it, with things like good hair and more people moving to being natural. Right. Yeah. And
I got good hair. Yeah. I got African in my family.
Yeah. Right. So things like exactly. So, in the past, it's been it's better to have straight hair. If you have naturally curly hair, that means you're more beautiful and more appealing. And I think just by addressing those stereotypes and those biases, we can bring them out to the forefront and say that's not necessarily true. Things like that, things like getting away from thinking that the lighter, the better. People are more talking about every shade is beautiful, dark is beautiful, all that kind of thing. So I think shining a spotlight, just like you're saying, addressing what our biases are, acknowledging them, talking through them, and moving forward.
Inviting Karen to the cookout. Tell her to bring that potato salad and eat it. Sheneka.
I'm going to draw
Sheneka, because we ain't eating it.
I will taste
she could come, but
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
You can tell me all about it.
Who you telling? I'm with Michael. We eating that potato salad Belinda brought, because even if she bought it from the right place, because she got the right taste buds.
And she still doctored it up and put it.
She did. Yeah.
Ooh, y'all so
She put some seasoning on it.
But she seasoned it. She chopped up a little bit more onion to put on top.
Right.
And some mustard, because it's supposed to be yellow, not white.
Exactly.
Y'all so messy.
But I do think we need to talk about it. In your groups, we talk hella shit, whether that be with you and your people, whatever. And trying to just educate one another. We just can't be sitting around with people doing stuff that we know is ignorant as hell and being like, y'all,
Yeah.
No, you sound ignorant as hell. That's what you need to tell somebody. You sound ignorant. And if you can invoke that type of conversation amongst your people, do it.
That's true.
And I think definitely just being in contact with people tends to change people's narrative.
Are you saying intentional contact with other? So this is coming from a woman who will not date outside of her race. No. I need you to date you a white boy, girl.
Me and Michael over here.
He's like, no.
I hear you though.
I'm with Mike. I hear you though. I hear you though. It's deep.
I think that
Michael, you need to too.
The motherfucking truth.
Oh.
Tell the truth. About our function, our dysfunction. And if you know what the fuck you're talking about, well, then don't say anything. And go find somebody that does. One of the things that we don't do, And when we find out people do it, we shame them. Is we getting some help,
Getting help.
getting some mental.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, that
Help.
is. That is.
Just talking.
Yeah,
And not talking.
You're not talking to somebody that's crazy. That
Right.
Don't know something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, tell the truth. Go find somebody that knows what they're talking about. Go find somebody with some letters in front of and or behind their name,
Ooh.
and go talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the Lakika may not know.
Lahu?
And it's okay. It's okay because Lakika be like, girl, I don't know.
Wait.
That's selling the truth.
And she should say she don't know.
Right, but she doesn't
Yes.
often say that.
Oh my God.
And I mean, and that's just the best way that I can put it. Just tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, go find somebody that does know. And not be ashamed of going to find somebody that does know.
Got it. Got it.
Think we're at the end? Think we're at the end?
You think so?
Yeah. We have some good takeaways.
What's the takeaway?
Michael said, tell the fucking truth.
He did say that.
Okay. You said to be intentional about mingling with people different than you.
Mhm.
Belinda, what you say?
A lot of stuff.
She said a lot
I
of
said,
stuff.
Give me one thing.
that my people were free first.
The Haitians were free. Stop, I say.
Not brûlé.
And I just believe that we just need to be intentional. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And be aware of our biases.
Be aware of our biases. I think that's kind of hard.
I think that's very easy.
I think
Yeah.
It's very
to recognize
yes.
your own bias. Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely think it's.
You know that shit
I know,
wrong when you
yeah.
get that tangle in your gut. I'm just playing. Look, let me. I do have something serious.
I question whether most people know that it's wrong.
Most people know.
Yeah, I recognize mine.
Most normal. I air quote normal. Most normal people know when they're being biased or not.
Yep. And they just get an amen corner.
Yeah.
just wash it around in my mouth.
Most normal people. So just recognizing it. And I think that comes with venturing outside your comfort zone. Knowing don't fuck with Haitians. Since they was free first. And knowing that you need to tell the motherfucking truth.
Gotcha.
Okay? Okay. I enjoyed this.
Me too. This was good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Michael,
you,
Belinda, Michael, thank you. Shanika,
Sure,
thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Pasha.
We still all black
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
and unapologetic.
Absolutely.
Wakanda
All the
forever.
way.
Wakanda
Yes.
forever.
You are my people.
And on that,
Michael is showing his Wakanda stamp on his lip, y'all.
and on that note, talk to y'all later. Peace.